Holy crap, I'm gonna tell you about some crazy cybersecurity AI stuff, and hopefully it's only a few of these unscrupulous actors that have figured out this technique where you actually deepfake multiple people in real time on a Zoom call to convince somebody who has the authority to move money around in a corporation to move it outside of the company into the scammer's bank account. Yeah, when I found out that this scam actually happened and $25 million was diverted away from a corporation, I was shocked. But more than that, I want to talk about some other cybersecurity risks that are completely outside the box of what you would normally think of. We're also going to talk about a new artificial intelligence model that was meant to identify fingerprints and got so superhuman good that it can identify if two fingerprints that are not identical came from the same person. Yeah, so get ready for a bunch of cybersecurity paradigm changes in this video. Let's get into it. So let's start by talking about this $25 million scam. A finance worker pays out $25 million after video call with deepfake, quote, chief financial officer, unquote. And after reading the article, it's not clickbait, it is exactly what it says. But the reason why this article is so interesting to me is if you really put yourself in the victim's mind, this is unlike any scam, any generally accepted, worried about phishing scam that you would normally get in a corporate environment. So let's imagine what this victim went through step by step, just so you can get your mind around how different the world is becoming. Picture this. You work in big company, anonymous big company, whatever you want to think of, and you work in the finance department and you happen to be somebody who is authorized to move money around, but of course you have a whole bunch of guardrails in place and approval processes that you need to go through to move large amounts of money. And then one day, something happens that happens every once in a while. The CFO of the company sends you an email and says, hey, can you be available to hop on a Zoom call tomorrow at 3 p.m., right? So you get your email, you log on to the Zoom meeting, and you see 5 other people on the conference. Conference is 6 people, and all 5 of them you recognize because you work with them. These are people that you know fairly well. You've seen them on video conferences before, you've probably met them all multiple times in real life, and one of them is the CFO, the person who's above you in the corporate structure, and if they direct you to move money, that is what your job is, to move that money as they see fit. But what's crazy about real-time deepfake technology that is happening on this Zoom call and would be completely unexpected by any normal person is that the 5 people you're looking at on screen are not the people that they look like they are. They are real people, they are actors, and they sound similar to the people that you know. They have bodies that are probably similar to the people that you know, but their faces are deep-faked. There is a person there that is talking, they're expressive in the same way a human would, but in real time, the deepfake technology is changing the structure of their bones, the skin, whatever it is, to match what probably were trained photographs of the people that they're emulating. Or should I say fraudulently deepfaking? I don't even know what you say, when you're just like putting a mask on, putting like a face mask on to look like a person that you're not. Now I'm trying to think about how difficult it would be to spot this if you didn't know what you were looking for. If you look really closely, usually there's some tells about the deepfake kind of real-time stuff that's happening. However, if they made it so that everybody's like working from home and you're on a Zoom and you have low bandwidth and you're not expecting to see something like this, maybe little, wrong indications you would get from somebody's voice, or if you looked really closely and the face doesn't look like it's, working in real time, you would probably say, oh, that's probably like a bad connection. That's probably just some way that Zoom's trying to make the audio sound better that's throwing me off. And you would probably just buy the whole thing. Like, how many times have you been on a conference call and it just felt it's already kind of weird. Like, there's already a lot of, like, you're like, oh, that's probably fake background, and people are like popping in and out of the background and all that stuff. And if all of the people who are playing their roles, including the actual CFO, have done their homework to act out the right character, to give you the right instructions, if they keep the Zoom meeting pretty short and punchy, like right to the point, this is the new initiative, I need you to take that $25 million, put it in this account, this is why, you good to go, thumbs up, okay, meeting's over, boom. You might be convinced. Another aspect of the scam that the article didn't totally go into, but I was wondering about, was whether or not the voices were deepfaked. There is technology where you can get a small sample of somebody's voice, you can upload it to a system, and when you talk in real time, it will try its best to mimic that same cadence, tone, and the inflection that you would would normally get from that person. So there's a good chance that these scammers actually went and got little voice snippets from all 5 of these people, uploaded them also. So yeah, it would be really interesting to see the details of what this person actually bought into, but whatever it was enough that this financial person actually sent the money to the scammers. When the money was missing, the real CFO was like, what's this all about? They reported it, and people are looking into it, and maybe they'll get the money back. Who knows? But just crazy that this is actually happening in reality today, and this is going to happen more and more in the near future. So if that wasn't outside the box enough, now I want to move us to another conversation, a new technology, and talk about fingerprint IDs. Throughout history, identification from your fingerprint has been a really great, unique identifier. Everybody has a completely unique pattern that forms when they're being born. It's with you your whole life. You can't get rid of it. And that has always been assumed to be different on all 10 of your fingers. So that's why over the years, fingerprinting existed. You put the black powder, the ink on your finger, and then you leave a fingerprint over and over again. This is one of the best ways to identify people. The phones, like the iPhones, had the fingerprint identification. Sometimes you see it in high secure areas. And over all the years, all the forensics, all of the finding people and looking through history, through identification, nobody ever thought there was a true correlation between the 10 fingers from the same person, something in the DNA of the person that forms the fingerprints in the first place that could actually be detected. But I'm telling you, as of today, artificial intelligence has discovered a pattern that AI at today's current level can detect at 77% of the time. That's better than the 50-50 of chance, meaning this is only going to get more identifiable, and there is something there. And I just find these things really interesting because I could see how these low quality images are getting high resolution upscalers, right? So I definitely think that systems like, if you know the MNest test where you try to train AI to understand handwritten digits, there's a continual improvement in systems like that. So it makes sense to me that fingerprint identification would get better, and to the point where a low quality image from like a smudgy fingerprint from an old document could probably be identified with high accuracy. I never expected the correlation between the fingers. I guess that just wasn't even on the radar, and to think that these researchers decided to test that and found that it actually is correlatable was just mind-blowing. Okay, so this work was led by a guy named Hod Lipson. He is a roboticist at Columbia University, and him and his colleagues just had this hunch, and a bunch of students got together and said, let's see if there's a correlation between the fingers on the same hand. So the way they built this artificial intelligence system was first to train it on 500,000 fingerprints. Now, these were synthetic fingerprints, so I'm imagining something kind of like a Midjourney that is just generating fingerprints over and over again so that the system can get super aligned with what a fingerprint is and kind of learn those patterns, probably where the edges are and the kind of patterns that happen, especially with like a black and white imprint of a finger, maybe even fingers themselves. And then once they had that sort of base model to know what it was looking for in a very specific way, they fed 53,315 real fingerprints that came from 927 individuals. And because they knew from which of these 927 individuals the fingers came from, they could ask a really unique question like, can you, if you're blinded to the information, figure out if 2 fingerprints from different fingers correlate to the same person? And it could, 77% of the time, which is more than we talked about before, the 50-50 that you would expect from random chance. I just found this really fascinating personally because when you think about superhuman intelligence in a really narrow domain like this, it almost feels like this emergent property, this emergent discovery that is like a very human-like light bulb moment when you're like, wow, there's actually something here between the fingers, something that nobody has really ever thought to ask before this team. And it really resonated with me as one of those indicators. Like, I think when I look back on the years 2024, 2025, when a lot of these AI systems will sort of do superhuman things, this will probably be one of those. Like, I remember when I learned that the fingers on the same hand could be identified by a system, we were starting to sort of cross that line into a superhuman AI world. And with this new piece of knowledge and a system that can actually find it, I wonder if there's this new opportunity to build new forensic identification tools. I mean, maybe we can go back in history and find maybe fingerprints from famous people like Isaac Newton or whoever who have left information on their writings, and we could say, oh wow, we didn't know who wrote this piece of information, but because of the fingerprint we can like match it. Or in the case of like what forensic, CSI type people are doing, like tracking down bad guys and terrorists and all of that stuff. Maybe there could be some mysteries that have been going on for years and they could become case closed because of a technology like this. And the researchers themselves were like, whoa, slow your horses. Like, that's not necessarily something that we should be building right now. So they were careful not to like jump on the hype train in the same way I kind of did on this video, because some of the engineers that worked on it expressed a lot of skepticism about implementing this technology right now, which when I do think about it does make a lot of sense, because if the system is only 77% reliable, it's really not reliable. We need to keep these systems evolving, but at some point, if they're like in that 99%-ish vibe, then I do think, wow, maybe we could use this to try to like hone in on some truths. If you hop on a Zoom call, check really hard to see if those are real people, especially if it's a very quick, laggy meeting and they want you to transfer money. Be aware that technology is now discovering a lot about the history of fingerprints and that paradigm shifts around cybersecurity are happening at an alarming rate. And thanks for Rob for the $100 per month donation on Patreon. Totally appreciate that, keeping me motivated to make these. And if you don't mind putting your fingerprint on that subscribe button right now, that would be awesome. Help me get to my goal of 10,000 subscribers. Thanks for watching.